Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. I'll give it just a second. I see a bunch of people filing in for you, Jason. So we'll give them a minute to get settled and we'll get rolling.
That sounds great.
And they all seem to be right on time today, which is great. Everybody's coming fast and furious.
It's good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't want to cut into your time, Jason. So thank you so much to all of you for joining us today on this One West webinar. So thrilled to have Jason Dodge with us today from BlackTruck Media and Marketing. Jason, we're thrilled to have you. Thanks for doing this.
No, thank you so much for having me, and it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here. So, I guess we've got a bunch to get through, so I can get started here.
Yep.
Appreciate everybody taking the time here, depending on what time zone you're in, but I'm assuming morning. So afternoon for my time. I'm Eastern time zone. But yeah, title of it. Hope you all know what you're here for. But discover, not click, destination marketing in a zero-click world. So a bunch to get through. In a short period of time per usual. But for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Jason Dodge, founder and CEO of BlackTruck Media and Marketing. Been in the industry for boy, going on over 16 years at this point in time. And for those of you who don't know who BlackTruck is, BlackTruck. We're a digital marketing firm that's trusted by brands to improve the visibility and discoverability online, and we do that through a myriad of solutions. Our bread and butter and our core services are really rooted deep in search engine optimization, digital advertising, content creation, and then data analytics. So that's really what we're trusted for, is really about the discoverability and visibility of brands and regional brands in the online space. So it's a pleasure to be here. Certainly, slides, resources are available at that bit.ly link there too. I think that Melissa's probably going to send that out, that information out to you all tomorrow as well, or by tomorrow. So feel free to, as you're going through, taking notes, taking screenshots, cool. But if you need access to the full deck at that resource link, there will be a prompt that you can get in touch. We're happy to send that over to you. So it's about 47, 50 slides. So a bunch of content to get through. So let's jump right into it. So I'm going to start with this. I think this caption is pretty compelling, but your destination is really already being described by AI. So if we think of things like Google AI overviews, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Copilot, you kind of get the picture. They're all summarizing our destinations and our brands. But the question is are you shaping that story, or are you letting it happen? So are you really writing the script for what the AI is learning off of? And that's really what we hope to start to uncover and unpack today as we go through some things. Sorry, my clicker was not working on my end here. But all of us remember what the Google search landscape looked like. I think previously, I have to look over on my other screen there because that's where my slides are. But if we think of it as the normal 10 blue links, so we all knew what the Google landscape used to look like, and this is one of my favorite things to present and talk about and educate on. But the reality is that this is the kind of response that travelers are getting today, and it's not just travelers. Those of us who are consumers, not in the travel space, in the DMO space, experience these types of things as well. The reality is there's no website visit, there's no visitor guide downloads. These actions aren't happening at the rate that they used to, and so there's no click. It's just a short, confident summary, and their decision, the user's decision, is probably going to be made right there. There's a high probability that that's going to happen. So the reality is that this becomes the new door, or the new front door, the new landscape for your destination. And that's just Google, right? Then we toss in name your tool of choice. We have all of these AI tools and platforms to contend with for our audiences and visibility. So, depending on if you are an OpenAI user with ChatGPT or Perplexity, Claude, Copilot, or Google's Gemini, which you start to see powering all of the AI overviews in Google search, this basically takes our landscape. It's like taking a bucket and it really upended it, and all the pieces and all the parts fall down, right? So instead of having this nice, clean one or two big organic players that were driving a lot of traffic, the game has kind of changed, certainly and exponentially over the last probably 2 years, if not the last years, where we really see things pick up. But before we get too deep and I kind of give you the agenda, I did insert a couple things that were really, really fresh and new because I think that we all keep asking where our traffic has gone. And I want to share some fresh perspective with you because I think it's important that the adoption of AI tools has actually been shrinking. So for all of the media and the press and the hype that we get out of AI tools, and no doubt all of us have used them at various capacities, maybe some multiple times a day, multiple times a month, that type of thing for creative strategies and bouncing ideas. We use them as tools. And I think that the general public, has started to become accustomed to that. But if you note, the adoption of AI tools has actually been shrinking. So what this means is their growth trajectory is actually slowing, which could suggest that we might reach a little bit of a steady plateau in the next 12 to 24 months, unless the platforms start to get, let's just say, more mainstream user adoption, right? So we kind of see that trend line going over time and actually shrinking. It's moving down and to the right and not up and to the right, how we might expect it. And the vast majority of traditional search users are heavy users. And so they actually show minimal fluctuation. So they're the ones that are on the top in this light blue, this mass that's going across the top. So you're going to ask Jason, what does all this mean? It means that your audience is still out there searching, but the platforms and the interfaces in which they're searching on keep changing. And what that means is that impacts what you're able to see. And it also impacts not only the results, but the narrative and how these things are appearing and how your regions and your locations are being represented when and where somebody is seeking out what it is that you do. So without further ado, let's talk about the agenda and where we're gonna head with this. I've got five kind of distinct parts that we're gonna break things down. So big takeaways for today's session really is I want to talk about AI and zero-click trends. Certainly the theme of the webinar, but focusing specifically on how AI search works and kind of give you a little bit of a primer on that, and then what zero-click discovery really means. Having spent, 20 years of my career in the search marketing space, I've seen a lot of changes. I've seen a lot of those shifts over the years. So to be able to provide you with some additional insights there as you're looking to make some decisions and moves, certainly in the year ahead. And then how AI describes destinations. So working across a lot of different industries and a lot of different verticals, the stuff that you read out there about AI's impact on search traffic, it's not equally applied to all industries and all themes. So it very much changes. So how these platforms describe a destination and how you can influence that is something that we're gonna work to uncover, as well as your brand voice in AI. So why your brand voice matters more now than ever and how to make it AI friendly. We'll talk a little bit deeper about how you can audit the AI presence. So hopefully some of you have started to take some of those steps, whether it's manual or you're using some of the tools, but we'll talk about some tools and techniques to do that, maybe frequency in which you want to do that, but how really auditing your presence can help you and understand some paths forward, and really closing everything out with future proofing strategies. So steps to prepare your content, to prepare your team. I also want to talk about, this also plays into how you prepare your shareholders and your partners and all of the things for this new reality that we're dealing with. Because zero-click search isn't the future, right? It's right now. Search used to be about finding links and clicking. So found a link, taken action, but now results have become answers. Google and other platforms are doing the thinking for us. They're doing the thinking for our users and our prospective travelers, and it's happening instantly without that click. So in the end, that means that zero click, what does it mean by a zero click? Is that the search journey becomes much, much shorter. It ends on the results where it started. So it ends on the results page or even before the user finished finishes typing in what it is that they're looking for. We're all familiar, I would expect by now, with autocomplete that feeds into this. And we're already living in this world. It's not a future trend. So search results are becoming answers and not pathways. I've long stated it. If you've heard any of my presentations before, I do love saying this, that search has evolved a long time ago from being a search engine to an answer engine. And if anything, what we're seeing now with AI and the growth in zero-click searches is just the next evolution of search. So none of it's new, right? But last year, my friends at Datos and SparkToro did a study and found that 60% of Google searches end without a click, which is pretty impressive. Even more than, and the stats not on your screen, but 80% of users, and I think this is something to really want to jot down, is that 80% of users rely on zero-click search results for at least like 40% of their searches. So that's a huge shift. It's changed what success looks like for you. It's changed what success looks like for me as a search marketer. Just showing up in search isn't enough, and you have to show up in the summary. You have to show up in these places, much like a billboard, if we're going to have a seat at that table and be a part of the conversation. So whether it's hotel suggestions, top restaurants, must-see attractions, that type of thing, users are increasingly not clicking, but they're still making decisions. And that's something that we really want to keep in mind there, is that decisions are still being made. The work that we do in like the B2B landscape, leads are still moving up and to the right, while certain aspects of traffic are shrinking. So we do get this impact of traffic, and I think that this is a helpful visual of what's changed. The old path on the top is really, it had steps, and the steps were there were 10 blue links. It was discovery, clicks to the site, and then the site visit and some sort of conversion. Now that entire funnel is compressed into more or less a single experience, whether we want to realize it or not. But AI is delivering us with the answer, and the user moves on. Like, done, period. So this shift has caused a real traffic loss. You probably see that in your monthly and quarterly GA4 reports that you're running. Google referrals are down. Some in the travel and tourism space. We've seen it in the education sector specifically too. Like, it's not uncommon to see 20% decreases in referrals from Google search traffic within certain markets, and you're probably already feeling that, and you may have felt that over certain time periods, at least in this past summer too, with a lot of these changes rolling out. A big thing that we talk about is the idea of click collapse. So here's what a traveler sees, is that AI overview summarizes your destination in, say, let's call it 100 words or less, just depending on your interface. And it's pulling from multiple sites, but not necessarily yours. And the users, well, what about the user? Well, they've already made the decision at this point. So organic click-through rates are dropping fast because these answers feel complete to the user. I'm not talking about accurate, right? We all know that a lot of these AI models can hallucinate. AI overviews with inside of Google are no different. So the reality is that no one is scrolling, but if they are scrolling, they typically are a much more engaged user. But um, we see multiple sources that are being cited, but I'm getting the information there. So nobody is clicking, right? And that's really the where we're at the end of the day. So there's a bit of a data disconnect. So clicks are shrinking, decisions are being made. Well, what does this all mean? So for those of us who are deep in the search industry, that's really what we call the great decoupling. And we're seeing this as a little bit of a strange phenomena, right? If you are nerdy enough and you start digging into your Google Search Console data, or you're working with a partner that can help you understand that, what you'll see is over time, and especially if you look at it, say, the past 30 days or the past 90 days over last year, you're going to see this trend where impressions are going up, but clicks are dropping off. So impressions going up is going to be that, I believe it's kind of that purplish line, the one that's on the top. You're seeing that grow, and you're seeing that line on the bottom that represents clicks, and those are going down. What you have to remember here is, what does this mean? Is that you're showing up, but nobody's visiting your site. So that's a signal that AI is giving people what they need before they even engage with you directly. So from an awareness perspective, somewhere in there, you do have a seat at the table, but it's a little blurry, right? And one thing to keep in mind and remember is that not all sites are created equal at all. I kind of made that statement earlier. So both of these sites that I'm showing you data from, very anonymous, while in the tourism landscape serve completely different audiences. And I think that's what's really interesting to look at is over the course of the last few months here, if you look at a DMO, which would be on the top, versus a resort, specifically a resort that has an exceptional content strategy that's already been in motion, that's already been planning and preparing for these things, you actually see that the impressions and clicks run pretty lockstep with one another, right? Versus a little bit of that disconnect and that fall off. Again, they trend pretty similarly there in the DMO space on the top, but you don't see as much action being taken on the click space as we do on the one on the bottom, which is really interesting trend to follow. So what does it mean for DMOs? I think this is important. How AI can be a test bed for marketing. I think that that's a big takeaway here. Is it means that your visibility strategy has evolved. If you're tracking clicks as a measure of success, you're probably missing a little bit of the bigger picture. Also, it's a little bit of a reset to say, hey, organic searches, original, I would say, part in our funnel, in our marketing funnel, wasn't just to drive traffic. We really have to talk about it as, was it driving qualified traffic? Was it getting the right attention and the right eyes on it? So we're really entering this phase where being cited is a little bit more valuable than being clicked. So search behavior has changed again, big sigh. In my world, when Google makes algorithm changes more than the US tax code, we're kind of used to it at this point in time. So I would encourage you, don't freak out, but let's talk about how we can change the narrative. AI overviews are infiltrating traditional search results. Traffic alone, again, no longer is telling you the full story. We have to combine other things such as visibility metrics, because visibility can start to trump actual engagement if you're not in the summary, depending on where you're at in that conversation. So now we get into a little bit of the more deeper meat of this is how AI describes your destination. So let's look exactly how AI platforms, or many of them, are describing your destination and what you can hopefully do to help shape that narrative and that conversation. And you'll kind of hear that. None of these words that I'm using are KPI driven. We're not talking about search volumes and things like that. We're going to talk about narrative. We're going to talk about intent. We're going to talk about some brand stuff in here and how this all influences what's going on. So we look at an AI summary versus a website visit. We look at what's really happening behind these AI generated answers. Travelers, again, would normally have clicked through to your site for this type of information. In this case, I want to see what's happening in this beautiful northern Michigan town called Traverse City. I'm going to go to the search results. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to visit Traverse City's website. But not anymore, right? Anymore, AI is going to consolidate those things, and the information that it presents is instantaneously. There's no need for a visit. But what you're seeing here is how Google in their AI overview might summarize a query like things to do in Traverse City, and your official DMO site might not be a part of that response. So not only have you lost potentially the click, but you've also lost a little piece of that narrative. You're not a part of the conversation. And that's the big kicker. So yep, click possibly went away. Yes. But what's more important to me is starting to shed light on that actual visibility component and the discoverability of your region, is that if you've lost the narrative, we don't have a seat at the table. So the website visit versus the AI summary and where you're getting this information from. Now, a lot of the AI platforms, and specifically, let's talk about this for a minute. Things like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, these are known as large language models in the world of AI, and where they're typically pulling their information from and how they're building answers to queries out, they're pulling from some of the web's strongest signals. In fact, there was just a news piece that was announced this week that OpenAI basically is using Google search for a lot of timely responses. So if it's real timely, so a real time type search query, they're actually scraping the SERP API that way and utilizing it. So it's kind of shaking things up a little bit in the world of the AI search, and in that OpenAI has always said for a long time that it's been partnering with Bing and using those search results, and lo and behold, they're actually scraping a lot of it from Google right now. So, but where's it getting the info from? It's not just scraping your homepage. These tools and these models are looking at things like structured data, trusted third-party sites, and really anywhere your brand is mentioned with consistency and clarity. And those are the key factors that you really want to remember here is that if your content isn't well structured or widely distributed, AI might not even consider it. So, what's really fascinating is over the course of probably the last 6 months is any of the tool providers out there, and I'll talk about some a little bit more here. So your Moz's of the world, your SEMrush, Ahrefs, etc. They're all really coming out with something available for you to help you see the types of pages that are ranking. But in short, your content really needs to be technically clean, strategically placed, and brand aligned everywhere. So that means it's pulling in information from aggregator sites. So your TripAdvisors of the world, your Yelps of the world, your different associations and affiliations. It's going to look at how your region is named and mentioned in user-generated content. If anybody sat in on a Tech Summit talk I gave 2 years ago, I think I was talking about the importance of user-generated content and how partnering with these UGC sites was going to benefit you. Here we are 2 years later, and it's come full circle. Social posts, blogs, forums, extremely important because the AI knows that search engines rely heavily on those things because the idea that we buy from other people, we buy from trusted resources. The trusted resource in this case is where other people are talking about us. On your site side, it's technical, it's structured content, FAQs, but it doesn't start and stop there. It goes deeper. Schema markup, reviews, things of that nature are all important for how our brands are best represented in these answers that the AI tools are churning out. And the role of source quality is something that I really want to talk about here because I think this is really important. It's very different than what you might think of as, let's say, traditional keywords and links SEO tactics, right? So AI prioritizes credibility, so structure and recency. Really, what it favors is authority. So if your information is buried in long, unstructured copy, or if third-party sites outrank you, you lose. Now, in the DMO space, that's kind of hard, right? Because a lot of, especially when we get in brand names and things like that, the region is our brand name. So we really kind of have to watch that in how we're monitoring it. But Google's AI is really weighing structure, clarity, freshness when it's choosing what to summarize. It's not taking into account popularity. How many times did somebody click on that resource necessarily? It's not really looking at those things. So sometimes it's going to prefer a third party source over your own content. Um, and that's why being accurate isn't enough. You have to be both accurate, so credible, and AI readable. And those are completely different things. So if we think about how they're looking at this, if you look at this original result, and we get these results here where I think I was doing the search here of where to stay in Albuquerque, and we have to look at the original sources. So if we get something that's getting pulled in here from TripAdvisor and things of that nature versus the AI overview and the different sources that it's pulling from. So obviously it's powering the AI overview from many of these resources. I did notice in this case when I was doing this test, like Visit Albuquerque does come up. They are sourced for these things, but there's a lot that can be learned by kind of training your mind to just look at these. It's kind of like seeing the forest through the trees a little bit. So I want to talk about some acronyms real quick. And then I'll probably squash those a little bit just from my history in the search space. So new rules. You guys have probably all heard this: AEO, GEO, AO. If you're used to SEO, this is I suppose, the next evolution. So answer engine optimization and generative engine optimization. Those tend to be the two acronyms that are getting thrown around the most. And the answer engine optimization is really about making your site machine readable. So it's optimizing for those zero-click answers, such as Google snippets. People also ask, voice search responses. I'm going to level with you all. Answer engine optimization is nothing new. If you go and do some research on things like programmatic SEO and fan out and all these other technical terms, I'm not going to worry you about. AEO is just this shiny object right now. And I would say that GEO is similar, right? It's optimizing content to be cited and summarized by the AI-driven search engines, your ChatGPTs of the world, your Perplexities, Gemini, etc. The thing that I want you to remember here is they're not replacing SEO. They're a layer on top of it, and it needs to be a part of your playbook. It needs to be a part of your new playbook. But keep in mind, it's search at the end of the day. So acronyms don't mean much to me. In fact, you can go look up geo, and I bet if you Google geo right now, what it's going to come up for geography, right? Landscape terms, anything like that. It's not generative engine optimization. So marketers right now selling the approach here, we have some work to do, and I'd encourage you to be skeptical. So remember, it's not a replacement for SEO; it's an evolution and a layer. May or may not have gone on a rant about this recently. I'd encourage you to go give our recent podcast a listen on AI optimization and how you can kind of break down the hype to the reality. And because there's a lot of stuff out there, I think that's being sold. Having spent 20 years of selling a service that can feel very intangible, I certainly have some opinions on it. So please give it a listen, and hopefully that gives you some red flags and some flyers to be like, to perk the spidey senses up if you're being talked to about these things. So just a heads up there, give it a listen. I'd love your feedback on that. So accuracy and trust risks. Let's talk about this, for instance. So AI doesn't always get it right. And when it doesn't, your brand suffers. So misquotes, outdated information, even fictional content, dead links, it happens. And in fact, when an AI overview is perceived as incorrect, the click-through rates actually are going to drop by up to like 60%. So trust is going to be broken immediately. You've gone far from being any sort of helpful resource to being ignored or worse, avoided. So you don't want to be summarized poorly. You want to be summarized in a powerful manner. If I do a search this way and I'm looking for planning a guy's trip, Northern Michigan, I'm looking at different golf courses and things of that nature. Are these trustworthy sources? Can it give me reliable and trustworthy sources? Then I can move that on as an example and say, yeah, that's great. Are there any golf courses in Northern Michigan that are open year round? Newsflash, no, there's technically not. If you note in here, they mention golf club on Mackinac Island. Unfortunately, this is what Mackinac Island is going to look like in the middle of winter. So no, we don't have golf in the state of Michigan year round. It doesn't happen. We're not blessed with beautiful weather like the states of California and Texas and Florida and many others, right? So it doesn't always get it right. So be AI skeptical and hopefully help your teams to be AI skeptical too. The bad thing about that is that you and I all know that consumers and people out there that are searching are probably going to take it for face value as well. So let's do better, shall we? So let's get into AI and your story as a wrap up. But if AI is telling your story, you want to make sure it's the right one. So the bottom line is they're already summarizing your destination. And while you can't fully control it, just like you can't fully control Google search in a traditional search, you can absolutely influence it. And what's true and unique and compelling about your destination needs to be echoed across multiple sources and done in a way that AI is going to understand that. So you can't control AI, but you can influence it. I think the same goes for Google. You can't control Google, you can influence it. Much like you can't control what people are saying about you in the press, but you can influence it. Structure and clarity are going to be greater than creativity. You get super creative and fluffy with your writing, that doesn't necessarily always bode well with an AI model. And what's true about your brand needs to be everywhere. It needs to be synonymous everywhere you go about how you talk about your brand, how you present it, what you align with. Those are big takeaways. It feels like marketing 101 here or branding 101 and storytelling, but these are critical things that we need to be aware of. Owning your brand voice in AI. So, how your brand voice factors into all of this, because generic summaries won't cut it in a competitive search landscape at all. If you see this with the changes in just search results and how meta page descriptions get changed and meta page titles get changed and absorbed and things of that nature. So, as we head into part three, we're going to talk about how you can own your brand voice in AI, or at least take those steps to start owning that. Because AI reads differently than humans. What AI reads versus what a human sees, very different. So humans and AI don't read the same way. What feels warm, emotional, immersive to us, a good experience as a human, probably going to be invisible and meaningless to an AI model. They're not sentient. They don't care about emotion and empathy, right? AI scans structure. It looks at the structure, it looks at the tone, and it looks for signals, not visuals, not vibes. That's why brand voice must be defined clearly in the structure of your content and not just your ad campaigns anymore, right? Like it needs to be everywhere when we're talking about our destinations. If I want to be known as, this great resort in my state or in a certain region, I need to talk about it. So it's like who I am, what I'm all about, and keep that consistent. So generic gets overlooked. What that means is that distinct is getting quoted. So there's this idea of distinct content versus generic, vanilla content. But really think of it as, why would I choose this destination? It's the difference between showing up and standing out. AI tends to quote language that is confident, it's specific, it's memorable. If your content sounds like everyone else's, the AI is going to treat it that way, right? So what you have to do is that I would encourage you to really lean into what's truly distinct about your destination and say it in a way that's scannable and repeatable. So it's scannable, it's easy to read, it's memorable, but you can also repeat that, whether it's throughout your site, throughout other sites, anywhere that you're talking about and representing your brand, we want it to be more memorable, very distinct. So a little bit of, I think a worksheet, I think this is a really great template to snag and a framework to go through, but a simple framework to define your brand voice for AI. Most of us have some form of brand style guides, and this is how we represent our brand, and this is what it means. Sometimes that tends to be a little bit fluffy, or it just tells me as a digital marketer who's running ads what I can and can't do with your logo. But if we really break it down and really look at step one is what's your core message? And then how would you describe your tone? So we're the destination for outdoor adventure, creative travel, cultural travelers, etc. And then moving into that next step is how do we really describe ourselves? Are we friendly? Are we bold? Are we elevated? And then kind of wrapping that all up, can you name three specific facts about your destination that have to be captured in any summary? If you were to meet me and you were going to describe your location to me and your region to me, and this is your elevator pitch, this is your time to do that. So, 1 to 2 sentences that you want AI tools to be quoting you directly. So, in this case, a lakeside destination known for Nordic spas, cider trails, and unfiltered stargazing, right? You can plug this into everything you're writing about. It could be in your homepage somewhere. It could be on your Google business profile, your media bios, structured data. It can also be influenced with your PR team. So I highly encourage you to get your PR teams involved as well. If you're working with one, if you're working with an integrated communications team, a PR team, and we're not having these conversations, that's a big concern for me. We absolutely want to be doing that. One of the biggest things that my team's been asking more and more is, hey, who are you working with for public relations? Do you have anybody? If you do, we want to meet with them. We're not here to take their jobs, right? They have a really good purpose. We want to help influence. These are the things that we know that we can influence, right? So where do we infuse this brand of voice? So making your voice consistent everywhere. AI is going to be looking. It's not enough to define your brand voice. We want to deploy it in all the places that they're listening. So that includes things like schema markup, making sure our meta descriptions are speaking to that. Again, the Google business listing, third-party profiles, like, hey, the One West website. If your voice only lives in your ads and in your creative copy, AI is not going to hear it there. That's not where it's going to come up. So you really want to start to take stock in what you have and how you're being positioned and present out there. So the mindset shift, excuse me, is really something to kind of get across here. Is we're not going to write just for people. We want to write like you want to be quoted by AI or quoted by the press or quoted by anybody. So that's a key sticking factor. That means that being intentional and specific and structured in how you describe your destination. Because if AI starts summarizing your region, you want it quoting you, not someone else. So defining the brand voice, determine what your tone is, your facts, your mission, etc. Kind of good brand stuff. But avoid generic language. The AI ignores generic language. It doesn't stand out. So being authentic with your brand is going to be key. And then consistency is crucial across structured and unstructured content. So structured content on your site, unstructured as it comes up in like user-generated content, social posts, and things of that nature. Let's step into how do we audit this? How do we begin to do this? I think this is the biggest challenge that maybe your brand might face, that many DMOs are facing, is how do I even get started in auditing? And I think that it can start with a self search, right? It's understanding how AI is representing me. So audit how your destination appears in a platform right now, using prompts as a traveler, using prompts that they might. And I would encourage you, use prompts that they might or that you think they might be using in traditional search, because you have to understand what that looks like. If I'm just saying, what is Seattle known for? Go and do that in Google. See what pops up. Go and do that in ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude. Go and do those types of searches. And then moving further, take screenshots of that. Ask things like, what's the best time to visit your city? What makes, your destination unique? Take screenshots of those and look at what is being cited and what's not, and whether it sounds like your brand. So, meaning you can hover over each one of those links and it'll show you. You can click on it, obviously, and it'll open a new tab, but you can quickly see, like, okay, are they, in this case, if I'm talking about Seattle, are they talking about Visit Seattle? Is Visit Seattle getting referenced in any of these talking points? Is it a part of the conversation? Where is the information coming from? You can easily scan and do this very manually, but again, it's a manual process. Providing you with a little bit of an audit checklist. I think this is important. So capturing your presence within the AI. So now that you kind of see how you appear, this is a process to move forward with. So, are you showing up? Is the story accurate? Does the summary reflect your brand tone that we talked about? And one red flag, I think, is like if you see things like outdated TripAdvisor reviews or old Wikipedia entries that dominate the summary, that's a problem. That means that there's nothing fresh out there. So we need to be proactive in shaping what the AI pulls from. So is the destination cited by name? Again, there's a little bit of a challenge there, because if I am, Carmel, California, is it Carmel, California? Is it caramel in my coffee? It's Carmel, not caramel. Or is it Carmel by the sea? No, it's Carmel by the sea. It's distinctly different as we train the AI. So is the information current? Is it accurate? And is your own content the one that is being pulled in there? These are the things that we want to look for. And your top destination traits, are they being well represented? Again, what we're known for, is that talked about? And then third-party sources, are they saying the right things as well? So if a third-party source is citing us, are they talking about us in the right tone and the way that we want to be represented as well? All right, metrics to track. So we kind of move from this idea of traffic-based KPIs to visibility-based ones. The old metrics still matter, but they don't tell us the whole story anymore. So we start to track how often your destination is mentioned, is cited, air quotes, and quoted, even if those interactions don't generate a click. That's okay. Going to be working on an upcoming webinar, picking back up on some things, but I do have some great information out there on cracking the code and how you measure impact when that attribution falls short. Because if you look at the old metrics that we always measured, right? Clicks, pages per sessions, those types of things. Again, physically people coming to our sites and visiting our regional pages versus more visibility metrics. Mentions in the AI answers. Again, are we showing up? How often? Citation frequency. In addition to summary sentiment. That's a new one, right? Sentiment. Didn't think about that in talking about search, but it really is what's the tone of the destination? Is it positive? Is it neutral? Is it negative? We kind of have to take stock in that because the AI is learning off of that. So when the AI gives you answers as a user, it's pulling from all of those types of pieces of information. I talked about tools. So aside from performing your own searches, any number of the, I'm going to say, big search tool providers out there have started to expand into at least the AIO tracking space. So Google's AI overviews. Some of them, not all of them, are saying they can do things like ChatGPT and stuff, but their database isn't quite there yet. And I'm not going to oust any of those, but a lot of them allow to go beyond that. But so Moz, Hrefs, search engine rankings, SEMrush, all of them have some variation here. And again, in addition, you can look at your Google Search Console as well to gain insights on pages that are growing in impressions but shrinking in clicks. That's a sign that you're being seen but summarized instead of visits. But the tools help provide a little bit more details, provides us less of a manual scan as well. So like at BlackTruck, we can do these things at scale then, so we don't have to manually go through it. So that's been a nice feature add, right? Because this is coming at us pretty fast and furious. So just a few more slides to wrap up here, but you can't fix what you don't see. So this is your monthly ritual ahead, right? So we're going to audit, update, and align because AI is constantly learning and it learns from what's the most visible and recent. So checking your destination and how it appears in the AI overviews, I think is going to be key, and other AI tools. Don't limit yourself just to ChatGPT, right? Begin to track how often your destination is being referenced and summarized. Consider tools or leverage your partners. Like BlackTruck, our tech stack is pretty big. You as a destination don't have to pay for those tools if you're working with somebody that's already doing that. It's one of those things that maybe you're reviewing monthly or quarterly or things like that as a good true north signal. And then monitor your most cited pages. Make sure they're up to date. Make sure they have good content structure, structured data, and that aligns with your brand voice because that can help inform the AI. So preparing for an AI first future moving forward, I want to work through some methods for taking everything we've covered and apply it across your organization. So from content strategy to partner communications, how are we going to do this? I'm breaking down into more monthly, so kind of like quick wins, midterm, long term. So quick wins, we're going to start small. You can begin this month. You can start it today. Run a self audit on generative platforms. Identify your top 5 highest intent queries. So best times to visit, those types of things, and see, are you showing up? Build in structured content to those top performing pages. Because if they're top performing right now in search, meaning what you can see from Search Console or what you can see in your GA4 data, that doesn't give you visibility necessarily into are they showing up in AI. You want to update your owned entities, anything that you have access to. So your Google business profile, I think you should have one as a destination marketing organization. It's an entity to own it, own the brand message, own the conversation. Your social channels, all of those things, go and look at those and make sure that they are accurate and brand aligned with what you have come up with and how you want to be perceived in the market. And then using brand forward language in any core SEO strategy or tactic moving forward is going to be important. So this seems real basic, but this is going to help train the AI to trust and to quote you moving forward when we talk about your region. Midterm efforts. Over the next 3 to 6 months, like focus on building an infrastructure, add schema markup, Can you partner with third-party publishers, right? User-generated content, expand content hubs around unique themes like food and culture and event type information, and then define how your team should be using AI internally to write, to research, and to maintain your brand voice. I think this is extremely important to get everyone on the same page. And then long-term future proofing for right now, as we head into Q4 and into 2026, long-term, the shift isn't about marketing, it's about mindset. And it might mean getting back to some basics as it pertains to your marketing and your brand. Those are some things that maybe we haven't really paid attention to a whole lot. So, coaching your partners, aligning your stakeholders is going to be key. It's all about consistency. So, expect your partners and your agencies to think beyond just Google search. Ask them questions. You could ask us questions. I'm not going to get defensive about it. It's a partnership. It's a relationship. I want to have that conversation. I'm not interested in waxing on acronyms either, right? So AEO, GEO, it's a search at the end of the day. Search, it could happen on Google, it could happen on Reddit, it could happen on Facebook, it could happen on Perplexity, ChatGPT, it doesn't matter. It's a search that is happening. Somebody is out there looking for you. It's no longer about gaming algorithms. It hasn't been for a while. It's about constantly training the AI to represent your destination accurately. So kind of think of it as train the trainer. You have to train the AI by training your content. And that's the mantra moving forward because you can't control what Google, OpenAI, and these other groups are doing, but you can control how your content trains them and how others talk about us. So we can invest a lot of money and time and resources into visuals that impact our brand, but forget where our users really start their journey before they even get to experience that stuff. And I think that's hypercritical as we look at making investments. So clear, structured, confident content, repeated consistency across platforms. That's going to help teach the AI to speak your voice, and it's going to better represent us. I want you to build a system, not just a strategy, right? So your AI future isn't built in one workshop, attending one webinar, and hey, I've got all the magic, keys. Nope. By treating your content like a system, over time, you're going to build this up. So it's one that's going to evolve. It's going to be trained. It's going to adapt, and most importantly, one that ensures that you are the one that's writing the AI script moving forward. So think like a publisher. Control your content ecosystem. Train your teams and partners. Have the conversations around how you can coach your teams and partners to speak your brand language. And understand that visibility engagement metrics are as important as just getting the traffic. Because the truth is that AI it really, something like Google's AI, any AI, they probably already know something about your destination. They probably know quite a bit. But the question is, did they hear that story from you? And so you have the opportunity right now to shape that narrative, to show up accurately, I think distinctively, and in a way that reflects who you really are. So some next steps takeaway really to close this out is 5 clear action items I think that you can take now. So zero click is real and rising. Where it's been here with the advent of featured snippets in Google since like 2014. So zero-click search isn't, to me as a search marketer, isn't anything new. It's much more mainstream now because of AI overviews. But we're not waiting for the future. So we're not on the wait list. AI search is here. Users are getting answers like never before without ever visiting the site. It's a discovery shift, not just a technical shift. AI is going to prefer citations over clicks. I'm not saying don't get the link back from the site, but it's important to get mentioned. So they're going to reward structured, quotable content. It's not about more traffic, it's about being the trusted source that AI leans on when they're summarizing. Voice and structure equals visibility. So your voice isn't defined, AI is going to make one up for you, right? Or they're going to borrow it from someone else. So make sure your brand shows up in the way that you want it to be known. Audit the AI footprint regularly, whether you do it manually, whether you leverage a tool, start to do this, start to understand, hey, where's it pulling that from? Why aren't we showing up? Start to ask those questions. And then prepare now. Don't react, right? I think the search industry is a very reactive industry. We kind of have to be because of algorithm changes, but this isn't something really to wait on. You want to be having those conversations and start those now if you haven't already. Because I think again, the AI-driven visibility is here, and it's just going to be harder to catch up on, and it's more about equipping your team and building the habits. So with that, thank you guys all. I think we have a little bit of time here for some questions too. Melissa, I'm available if you are. So
Awesome. Jason, thank you so much. That was awesome. Does anybody have any questions for Jason? I think you covered everything so well.
sweet.
Give it a second.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. If any pop in, I'll definitely let you know. But
Yeah, do that.
again, Jason, thank you so much for doing this for today. We really appreciate it. Actually, we just had one pop
Trish
up.
has a question.
Trish has a question. Go ahead, Trish. Let's see.
Do you have to audit all AI models? I think that's a great one. No, I would focus your attention on two different spots right now. So certainly, the most popular one, ChatGPT. Yeah, do that because the reason I'm going to say that is OpenAI is really kind of that juggernaut. Because there's a lot of folks that have attached themselves to OpenAI, meaning they're using it for their apps, their app development, their bots, and things of that nature are kind of powered off of it. So I certainly would look there. I also would look within Google. Again, Google is owns 90+% of the search traffic. I think I shared that stat at the beginning. Like search is still really a big thing. So I would focus on what the AI overview is pulling in as well. So ChatGPT and then Google's AI overviews, which would be Gemini. I would see how you're doing there. That's where I would look there.
And Jason, you have another question from Stephanie.
Yeah, would you recommend creating more YouTube videos that match articles on your website? I'm seeing videos in many of my overviews now. Yeah, well, I mean, absolutely. I think videos, boy, I'm not outing anybody here. I think video from an SEO perspective is honestly something that many folks should have done probably 5 and 6 years ago when we first started to see, if you're familiar with a featured snippet, the original, the OG answer in Google search, featured videos were a thing 5+ years ago, if not 6 years ago at this point in time. So, yes, absolutely, I would. It also plays into some things that we know about search in terms of Google favoring its own content, meaning if you're using a YouTube embedded video in your content versus, Wistia or something like that. So I would do it twofold, Stephanie, both from video is great because it hits an audible learner, a visual learner. You also have some content that's written about it if somebody wants to, digest it that way, so it's snackable. Also, set this aside. YouTube's the second largest search engine, owned by the world's largest search engine. It's another distribution channel of your content. You could also take that same video, publish it natively on Facebook. You could go throw it on Vimeo, or you could go throw it on LinkedIn, and it's not going to duplicate itself either. So you don't have to worry about that. They're separate ecosystems, and it's all about building your brand presence. So hopefully that helps.
Awesome. Jason, that was so great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us today. If you need more Jason Dodge in your life, there will be both the deck and the video will be posted to our website tomorrow. And be sure to check back regularly for our full schedule of webinars. And we hope to see many of you in Olympia in a couple of weeks. Thanks so much, Jason.
Thanks, Melissa. Thanks everybody for joining. I appreciate it.
Thank you.